In just 20 seconds, I have to say something, or I have to say this. You have to know that by coming here, every person that came here is a role model back home. In every single way, or in no matter, there are many ways. We are all role models. And we have to live up to expectations of people that are reaching up to us. And if you don't think about this, think about how you can make things positive, to encourage others back home, then we will be a failure. The next generation has to build on what we have built. And that is why we need to just think about our roles as individuals. We need to remember that we are role models in our own ways. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Jaja has done a lot of things in the kind of crowdfunding as well as charity to raise some money for disadvantaged communities back in Nigeria. So that is where we are holding him. The next person is Sunni. I'm not sure whether she's here. Unfortunately, she won't have the handshake from His Excellency. That's bad for her. The next person is Thorsten. Your Excellency, Thorsten has shown from my perspective, Your Excellency, Thorsten is a true patriot. He is though a member of this committee, but all our events, Thorsten comes in and he videotapes and does a lot of things to support the society. It is for this reason that we are awarding him this certificate, Student Leadership Award. And I'm sure Thorsten and people like Thorsten have the capability of making Nigeria great one day. Thank you. That is Thorsten one, and that's good.
You came into the right one.
I met some of you in February, and I want to thank you for all you are doing for our Nigerian students here. And the students, I talk to the students now. This is your event. And I'm again going to say that I'm highly impressed. Not because this is my second coming in a few months. I was here in February and I told you what I felt about you. But if I must wait till now, I think it will go from 80 to 90.
Thank you.
Partly what I'm saying is your sense of commitment, your sense of dedication. When Puccini died, the opera that came up.
That's opera.
The conductor came up with tears in his eyes. He narrated this story. How Puccini was diagnosed with cancer and he was dying. And the opera started and played. And he got to a point. And he stopped. He paused and with tears in his eyes, he said, that was where the master ended his work. Then after a few seconds, with a smile on his face, he said, and this is where the students, his friends, took over, and the opera continued. So the sense of continuity, I want to commend you again. And I gave you that short story to remember the past and the future, they're always flowing into each other. Like, I'm especially happy to be here. Dr. Betama Sule is here. Like I earlier said, I met him. But he's still somebody well respected. He's an elder statesman in Nigeria. We listen to him. One, because as they say, no matter how much you have as an adult, you may never have more rights than an old man. I'm not saying he has rights, but there's something he will not have. He has more wisdom than all of us put together. So again, let me thank you, all of you again, And I remember somebody in Georgia, when he engaged me, it was not about what he could get from Nigeria. He said he had an NGO and how he could get involved and send these things. And such things, actually, they impressed me because I meet with different Nigerian societies. And I classify them into two. Those who want to see what they can get from the High Commission, and those who want to give back to the society where they came from. I think you belong to the latter. Thank you very
much. That being said, I'll be inviting Mr. Tucker to give a poem. But before Mr. Tucker comes, Mr. High Commissioner was talking about Puccini, and what was just coming to my mind was what? Because all we know now is Davido, Wizkid, you know, when you're talking about Puccini, we're like, what did he sing? You know? So, Mr. Tucker is coming to give us something that isn't Davido and Wizkid. So, if you're not used to it, this is your opportunity to start to get into the kind of lifestyle, okay? You've been in Britain for quite a while.
That is the past and the present.
Oh, okay, sir. All right, Puccini is the past, Davido is the present, Mr. Tucker is the future. Let's put our hands together for
Jaja, this is no Davido, this is Shakespeare. My name is Muhammad Tukur, and I'm here to present this lovely poem by Lana Atkinson from London. The name of the poem is Nigeria Unites. Yes. Walking into Africa, I see beautiful faces. However, my eyes are attracted to a smile at my waist. She looked at me once, and immediately I glanced. Her eyes emerald green and white as snow. I approach with racing hearts. What is your name? She pauses. Do you speak English? I speak over 100 different languages. English is one of them, and everyone calls me Nigeria. She shows me her hands, which are bountiful and full of natural resources. A tear rolls down when she mentions her Chibok girls, stolen by heartless and callous forces. People say I am known for the wrong things, but they fail to see my potential within. On my shoulders, I carry Africa and the world's largest black population. My breast produces petroleum that needs many nations. My son, Kogi, is blessed with coal. My daughter, Zamfara, is covered in glistening gold. Abuja is the head of my family tree, but all my children are close to me. Despite speaking alone, I stand united. Nigeria for all. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to invite our first Vice Chancellor, Professor Shud Mahmoud, to come and give a word to His Excellency Michael Masule and to sing.
So when we send out the invitation to His Excellency to come for this event, we sent it through the former president of the society, Abubakar Bokatabu, a brother and a mentor as well. And I was really impressed and honored that His Excellency Ambassador Michael Masule replied back addressing me as dear sir. Sir, I believe by coming here today, you proved to us that you believe in the next generation of Nigeria. And I want to promise you that we are deeply patriotic inside. and we will work to change the country in our time, inshallah. May I kindly invite Ambaka to give us a brief kind of history of His Excellency before we present our piece.
Let's put our hands together for Kabul. With most utmost regard to everybody here, this is a great evening to all of us. Thank you, Professor, for being here with us. Thank you, everyone else. And thank you, Sussex, for supporting Nigerian students and students from all around the world to become better, to become scholars. I was asked to come and give a history of Dr. Yusuf Maitama, but this is a history that began in 1929. So I will only give a citation of some of the things that he's done in his life. I will start by saying that Dr. Yusuf Maitama was born in 1929 at Yola Quarters of Kano City of Nigeria. Part of the things he has done in his life, which is about 16 pages, which I will cut only to about 3, include him becoming a member of the House of Representatives in 1954 in the First Republic of Nigeria, and then the chief whip of his party from 1955 to 1959. While serving as the chief whip of his party in the Federal House of Representatives, he was appointed Native Authority Chief Information Officer in Kano State in 1955. He was then appointed the Federal Minister of Mines and Power from 1959 to 1964. He was reappointed to the same office in 1964 and was there until 1966. Dr. Yusuf Maitama led the Nigerian delegation to the Conference of Independent African States in June 1960 at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he moved the resolution calling for the Casablanca Bloc and the Monrovia groups to merge and form one continental organization on the lines of Organization of American States, with permanent secretariat and a permanent secretary. The resolution passed by Dr. Yusuf Maitama led to the meeting of the two groups in Accra in 1961, and that singular effort culminated in the creation of the Organization of African Unity, which is today the African Union. Dr. Maitama served as member and deputy leader of the first delegation to the United Nations in 1960 and attended the full session of the United Nations throughout 1960. He was appointed a pioneer member of the Kano State Executive Council in 1967, and he was there until 1974, where he served as the Commissioner for Local Government, Commissioner for Forestry, Commissioner for Community Development, Commissioner for Cooperatives, and later Commissioner for Information and Culture. He was elected the President of Nigerian Arts and Culture in 1974. He was appointed the first Chief Public Complaints Commissioner of Nigeria from 1975 to 1978. He was Nigeria's Special Envoy and President to the Lancaster House talks on Zimbabwe in 1983. Throughout 1981 to 1983, he served as the chairman of the United Nations Special Committee Against Apartheid in South Africa. Maitama was appointed National Minister for National Guidance, the precursor to the War Against Indiscipline and Corruption in 1983.
Okay, now I would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Maitama to give us the guest lecture for the evening, focusing on patriotism and unity in nation building. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Vice Chancellor, well, please, you can forgive me because of my age. I will discard protocol. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Khatim al-Nabiyyin wa Imam al-Mursaleen. Your Excellency, Nigeria's Acting High Commissioner to London, Mr. Vice Chancellor, my dear students, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have accepted to be here this evening for a number of reasons. In the first place, the Nigerian students have a right to invite me. And by accepting this invitation, I'm not doing a favor to you, I'm doing a duty. I am owing Nigeria. Nigeria is not owing me. And I believe also that the prayer of a good parent is that his children may be as good, if he is good, if not better than he is. And that is my prayer, that you, the potential leaders of Nigeria, may be as good as we were, if not better. And again, I believe also that the joy of a dying father is the presence of a worthy successor. For your successor to be worthy, you have to impart your experience to him. Tell him the mistakes you made in the past so that he may avoid them. Tell him your achievements so that he may emulate them and even improve upon them. Only thus can he become a worthy successor. And again, I also believe that the purpose of history is to know the past so as to adjust the present and plan for the future. I was in active politics before independence. I was there on independence. I have been there since then by the grace of God. So I am here to impart the little experience I have gained over these years to you. We started very well. Before independence, there were crises in Nigeria. But do not be disappointed or do not lose hope because of the crisis. I have seen so many crises in Nigeria and were able to overcome. In 1953, when Chief Enahoro moved the independence motion in the House of Representatives, I was not there then, because I was in the House in 1954. He wanted independence immediately for Nigeria. His northern colleagues amended the motion to read independence as soon as practicable. This did not go well with our brothers in the South. As a result, the northern members were humiliated, they were even stoned, they had to be escorted by the police from Lagos to Kaduna. Thereafter, Chief Akintele was selected by the southern members to go to Kano and give a lecture to explain to the people of the north that their representatives did not support the independence motion. That was the cause of the Kano riot, the very first political riot in Nigeria. But soon after, our political leaders, with all their political differences, cultural differences, religious differences, put these things behind them and came together. When the colonial power seriously went into discussion with the Nigerian politicians for the independence of the country, they, the members, in spite of the differences, in spite of the chaos, in spite of the crisis and the riot, came together, and in the interest of the country, they forgot those differences and they started discussing independence of Nigeria. we were able to overcome. In 1956, in the House of Representatives, there was a debate on the census. And for almost 1 week or even more, there were heated debates. And the country was about to go to the dogs. Some well-meaning people outside the parliament waded into the crisis. And one morning, like a miracle, the Prime Minister made a statement lasting not more than 5 minutes. And that brought an end the 1 week heated debate on the census. The census figures were accepted. We were able to overcome. Then in 1959, we had the independence elections. No one party emerged victorious, in that there was no one party that had an overall majority that would enable that party to form the government alone. There must be a coalition. There was a move by the two southern political parties, the NCNC and the Action Group. There was a move to bring them together. But then again, some people, some well-concerned Nigerians, and I think some foreigners also, went into this and pointed out that if the two southern political parties teamed up together, they would exclude the NPC, the Northern Party, which was representing more than half the population of Nigeria and more than half of Nigeria in size. And that might give the Northerners an opportunity or a chance or a reason for leaving the country. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe fought for the independence of Nigeria more than any one leader, I must admit. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe struggled for the independence of Nigeria more than any one political leader. He was approached, and he was told that he did not fight for the independence of Nigeria to have Nigeria united after independence. He wanted a united, independent Nigeria. He agreed to team up with the NPC and agreed to play a second role. A great man. He agreed in spite of his struggle, which was more than anyone once. He agreed to team up with the NPC to form a government, which he did. We were able to overcome. Then even in 1964, when we had the controversial election, the two main political parties with their allies, the NCNC with the NEPU and the Action Group with UMBC, decided not to contest the election. The NPC, the Northern Party, and the newly formed UNDP of Chief Akintala, he left the Action Group and formed his own party, and he went into alliance with the NPC, and the two parties went to the polls. The others refused. The two parties, after the elections, claimed that they had won the election. Well, in all honesty, the election was not complete. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was president, refused to invite anybody to form the government. He was right. So for quite some time, the country was there, and there was no government. Some well-meaning people also went into the crisis, and they brought the political leaders together, and they reconciled them. We overcame. As a result, we formed what we call the government. We formed a broad-based government. We were able to overcome. Now the interesting thing is that the Nigerians, political leaders of the First Republic, our founding fathers, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Sardauna of Sokoto, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the first Prime Minister, and Malam Aminu Kano of NEPU and Tarka of UMBC. These great men, the founding fathers of Nigeria, from what I have observed, went into politics to serve but not to be served, to give but not to take. These people, in spite of their political differences, in spite of their cultural and tribal differences, were always ready to come together in order to move the country forward. They accommodated one another. They cooperated with one another in order to build a greater Nigeria. These great men respected one another. I remember during the Constitutional Conference here in London, one morning, Chief Obafemi Awolowo saw Sardauna and greeted him. He refused to answer. He greeted him again. He refused to answer. Said, Prince, he used to call him Prince. What is the matter? Said, your boy, I will not mention name, your boy so saw me twice and he refused to greet me. He complained to Chief Awolowo. Chief Awolowo did not say a word. He went round and looked for his boy. Luckily, he was on the delegation to London. He saw him, he held him by the arm, dragged him before Sardauna, and told him, kneel down and greet the Sardauna. Next time, if you see the Sardauna and you don't greet him, I will dismiss you from my party. I am not running a party of irresponsible people. Imagine, Sardauna was the leader of the NPC. He was complaining against a member of the action group. Again, when we achieved independence, I was appointed a minister. I was about the youngest member of the cabinet. Chief Awolowo was leader of the opposition. Every morning during the session, before the sitting of the House started, I would go to Chief Awolowo and kneel down and greet him. One day, the Prime Minister called me to his office. Said, Damasani, I have observed an unholy alliance between you and me. I said, sir, you taught me. I am the youngest member of your cabinet, and people believe I'm your favorite. And people also believe that you are a gentleman. If I showed any disrespect to any elder or any leader, they would accuse you of encouraging me. And that is not in your character. He said, God bless you. Keep it up. Then again, there was a time when Keo Mbadwe and Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe fell apart. As a result of this misunderstanding, Keo Mbadwe was dismissed from the NCLC, was dropped as a minister. He was the leader of the NCLC ministers in the coalition government. The Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, created a post in his office. That post never existed before. He appointed Keo Mbadwe, Liaison Officer for Africa. It never existed. When asked, he said, well, such a highly placed person should not be kept idle. But that was not all. He wanted to buy time. He wanted to reconcile Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and Keo Mbadwe. The Prime Minister kept going backwards and forwards between these two gentlemen until he succeeded in reconciling them. Shehu Mbadwe was readmitted to the NCNC. He was reappointed a minister and made the leader of the NCNC ministers in the coalition government again. Was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa an Igbo man? Was he a member of the NCNC? One would expect that he would use that opportunity, exploit it, to put them further apart. But he did not. He was thinking of Nigeria. Now, this was the kind of leadership that these great men gave to Nigeria. As a result, Nigerians in the First Republic, wherever they went, were respected. They were admired. They held their heads high. Our reputation was very high. Indeed, Nigeria within the country enjoyed peace, relative peace. We respected one another. We were our brothers' keepers. There was morality in the society. There was little corruption. But today, unfortunately, as a result of lack of that kind of leadership which we enjoyed in the First Republic, the country is what it is today. There was a report in the First Republic, I think in 1961 or so, which said that 3 developing countries would in 15 to 20 years develop and join the leading countries in the world, the leading industrialized countries in the world. These 3 developing countries were India, Brazil, and Nigeria. Today, India has made it because India is a nuclear power. In the field of computer technology, India is in the forefront. India produces more doctors than any country today in the world. India builds ships. India builds planes. India manufactures all kinds of weapons. India has made it. But India has the second largest population in the world. India has more tribal and religious conflicts or problems than Nigeria. In fact, 100 times more than Nigeria. But they were able to make it. Good leadership. Brazil today has also made it. Brazil has about the best agricultural program in the world. Brazil today builds ships, manufactures planes and cars, and weapons of all kinds. Incidentally, Brazil and Nigeria established their defense industries the same year. So while Brazil is producing all these sophisticated weapons, building ships and manufacturing planes, our industry in Nigeria was only producing furniture. Unfortunately, Omashio. Now, lack of leadership. If that leadership had continued, we had gone far ahead. As I said, there was morality in the society, there was little corruption, there was respect for elders and constituted authority. Today, unfortunately, even the institution of family has broken down. Respect for elders, which used to be a cardinal principle in our society, is now at its lowest ebb. Honesty, why it does not pay, has become meaningless. Symptoms of revolt loom large in the horizon. In short, today, there is meaninglessness in philosophy, insecurity in politics, immorality in society, chaos in politics, corruption in economy, and even frustration in art and lack of creativity in literature. 5 minutes. Leadership. We must have good leadership. Leadership. In order, therefore, to correct the ills of the past, we need to have good leaders. And that is why I have been praying. And at the risk of repeating myself, I will repeat my prayer this evening. May God grant that we may have leaders, not rulers. Leaders, not looters. Leaders with the fear of God. Leaders who will not lie. Leaders will accept in public what they have accepted in secret. Leaders, not rulers. Leaders who will not steal. Leaders who are not corrupt. Leaders who will look at the lot of the common men with the eyes of compatriots, not with the eyes of the privileged few. Leaders, not rulers. Leaders with the fear of God. Leaders who have fire in their bellies, but humanity in their hearts. Fire in their bellies so that they may take unpleasant but necessary decisions. But humanity in their hearts so that in taking such a decision, they will temper justice with mercy. Leaders, not rulers. Leaders who look at the lot of the common men with the eyes of compatriots, not with the eyes of the privileged few. Leaders who will know when they are no longer equal to the exigencies of their nation and will have the prudence of handing over to others before they forfeit the admiration of their countrymen. Not those who will want to perpetuate their stay in office until death do us part. Leaders, not rulers. Leaders, not looters. Now, please give me a little bit more time. What is wrong? What has gone wrong? We are practicing democracy, aren't we? And I believe that democracy is about the best system of government. But what is democracy? Democracy is nothing more but consultation and at the end of the day, doing justice to all and sundry. That is democracy. Whatever system you may follow, so long as that system will allow you to have consultation and to do justice at the end of the day, that is democracy. But democracy also is relative. The cultural parameters of a people, should determine their style of democracy. America practices democracy, but the style is different from that of Great Britain, isn't it? The British pattern of democracy differs from that of Germany or France, and all of them, have different types of democracy from the former Soviet Union, because even the former Soviet Union claimed that they were practicing democracy. Democracy is relative. We are practicing democracy in Nigeria and indeed in Africa, but we are finding it difficult. In many parts of Africa, leadership is becoming hereditary. Nobody wants to leave once he gets into that office. Politics has become tribal. A big leader, I won't mention name, told me that African politics is tribal. If anybody gets to power, he will try to exclude all other tribes and empower his own tribe. And he will want to remain there because he doesn't want his tribesmen that he has installed to lose after he shall have gone. Unfortunately, we are copying this thing wrongly. African democracy is not Afro-type. It is not Afrocentric. it is Eurocentric. We need to have an African background. Our democracy must have an African background if it is to succeed. Way back in 1961 or 2, when I was invited to give a lecture at the Ibadan University, convocation lecture, I didn't foresee the problems of Africa then. I saw two, leadership in Africa and the political system in Africa. We have not considered our cultural background in shaping our own democracy. And I repeat that democracy is relative. The culture of the people should be considered in shaping the type of democracy that any country is to follow. After all, before the white man came to our shores, we had a political system. We were operating a political system. What was that system? We should revisit that system and see if we can update it and modernize it and practice it. What was that system? We had a political system in which the leader was called the Eze or the Olbi or the Oba or Emir or Sultan or whatever, and he had a council. In that council, he had members. Every tribe was represented in the council. Every religion was represented. Every trade, every profession was represented. Every interest group was represented in that council. There was no formal opposition distinct from the government. Everybody was a member of the government. But there was opposition within. If any matter came up for discussion, people would freely express their views. And at the end of the day, if a consensus was reached, a decision was taken, it was binding on all. As a result, this system took care of the two things that are now standing in our way: tribalism and religious bigotry. Every religion was represented, every tribe was represented, and nobody felt excluded. All hands were on deck. There was peace, there was understanding, there was brotherhood. That was the system that operated in those days. Muallim Inyerere tried to practice a similar system. He introduced what he called Ujama. And he introduced a kind of one-party system. One party with a difference. It was different from the socialist one party. In that, in the socialist countries, the party executive produced a single list of candidates. In his own system, he allowed every constituency to produce as many members or candidates as they could. There was a choice, but there was peace. This proved useful and successful. When Muallim stepped down, when he retired, he was succeeded by a Muslim from the small island of Zanzibar, an Arab. If we had followed this Eurocentric or Eurotype in Africa, where there is too much tribalism, nobody from Zanzibar would ever succeed as the president of Tanzania. Zanzibar and Tanganyika came together and formed Tanzania. Tanganyika, black, Christian, forming about 80% of the population, if not more. This, they will never Nobody from Zanzibar will ever become the president. But when Muallim stepped down, he was retired because of this system, which took care of tribalism and religious bigotry. A Muslim and an Arab succeeded an African and as Christian. I called this Afrocracy. Afrocracy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, they have been pinching me from behind. Nigeria, my dear students, is a great country potentially. I say potentially because we need to work hard now in order to realize the potential greatness of the country. It is not for nothing that we have been put together. Different tribes, different cultures, different religions, and even different climatic conditions. Oh yes, we have been put together by God for a purpose. God wants us to understand one another, to respect one another, to accommodate one another, to unite because of the role He wants us to play, the role of leading Africa, the role of inspiring the blacks all over the world. Nigeria can only do this if we are united at home. I am told that this tribalism and religious difference are the two things that are standing in our way. Yes, they are. But I see no reason why they should be as stumbling blocks. First of all, tribalism. If you go to the United Nations today, I don't know if they have removed the board. In front of the United Nations headquarters building is a big board on which is inscribed a verse from the Holy Quran. I have found out that there is a similar verse in the Holy Bible. That verse is saying, "O ye people, we have created you of a man and a woman and divided you into tribes and races so that you may understand one another. No one is greater than the other in the eyes of God except he who is more pious, more useful to his fellow men." So the idea of creating a different tribes and different races is not that we should quarrel or fight one another. It is to understand one another. You may ask how? Yes, there is a lot of wisdom in it. If we were the same color of the skin, if we wore the same costumes, if we had the same customs, if we had the same characters and characteristics, if we had the same manners and mannerisms, we would assume that we are all the same and that we would not bother to know about one another. But the fact that we are different makes the inquisitive instinct in us urge us to find out why. In trying to find out, we come close together and there begins understanding which will lead to cooperation and unity. God wants us to develop, and that is why He has different ideas. If different ideas cross-fertilize, you will have development and progress. God wants us to enjoy this life. Therefore, variety is the spice of life. We are different tribes. It is not because, not that we should quarrel with one another. We should understand one another. As for religion, which is very important, I will want to say this. I do not agree that religion should be a barrier or would be a barrier. I believe that all the religions of God are basically the same. All the religions of God have one purpose, the worship of one true God. The modes of worship may differ, but the objective, the aim is the same. And of course, the moral values taught by all the religions of God are the same. Take Christianity. Peace with their God, peace with their mind, peace with their fellow man is the teaching of Christianity, isn't it? Fellow man, not fellow Christian. On the other hand, the word Islam means peace. And the most important aspect of Islamic worship, after the belief in one God, is the salat, the prayer. At the end of the prayer, you say, Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. All, everybody. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. In Islam, the Holy Prophet of Islam said, the angel Gabriel emphasized the importance of good neighborliness to me. So much so that I began to think that there might be a revelation from God that a neighbor could inherit a neighbor. Both religions, Christianity and Islam, teach being your brother's keeper. And there is no religion of God that said you should coerce, pressurize, or force somebody to embrace it. The Christians are taught, if you go unto them and preach the word of God and they refuse to listen, pick up your shoes, dust them and leave them in peace. Islam says, la ikrah fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. It is a matter of conviction. The important thing in religion is love. The Christians are taught it does not matter how much you may worship God. Even if your worship can move mountains, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven unless you have love in your heart. On the other hand, a Muslim saint once said, I see myself as a Christian. He was a Muslim. I see myself as a Christian and sometimes as a Jew. In my heart is Islam, but love is my religion. Love is my faith. These are the moral teachings of all the religions of God. So, we must be practical believers, not theoretical believers. You go to the church and you see a lot of people singing hymns. You go to the mosque, you see them praying and praising and so on. We must practice the teachings of our religion. If we did, there would be no problem. But we need good leaders. People take the cue from their leaders. I once suggested that if we don't adopt this Afrocracy, let us try something with this democracy we are practicing now. 6 months before election, let the incumbent government resign. Let there be an interim government of credible Nigerians, non-partisan, who will not contest the elections. That interim government should appoint the electoral commission, organize the election and conduct the election. All parties then will be at par. No one party will have an edge over the other. But as long as you will ask an incumbent government to organize a succession election, it will succeed itself. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm told that we have to leave here in about 5 minutes' time. Let me thank you for inviting me. And let me say to you, the youth, although I have painted the picture of Nigeria as it is now blank, I believe that we have an answer. And you are the answer. You are the panacea to our ills. You are the solution to our problem. You are the vehicles of change. You are the vanguard of the revolution. Don't give up. Today in Nigeria, we have a silent revolution. We are seeing things happening. And I believe that things will be all right by the grace of God. As I keep saying, I am an optimist, I'm not a pessimist. I always have a dream. I have a dream that Nigeria will soon be united, truly united. I have a dream that we will be our brothers' keepers. I have a dream that we will build a buoyant, strong economy. I have a dream that Nigeria will have the political clout that will enable her to lead the blacks all over the world, and Africa in particular. I have a dream that Nigeria will soon take a proper place in the Committee of Nations. You are the answer, the youth. You are the answer. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Well, thank you.
Ambassador, and it's a great honour to say a few words by way of thanks. You've spoken this evening with great passion, both about your country and about the power of the next generation to help it through its next phase. You've spoken about things that are deep at the heart of this university. The importance of tolerance, the importance of understanding, the importance to oppose bigotry in all its forms, and the power of leadership too, the importance of significant people in the history of a country. We thank you for that. We'll take those lessons away and reflect upon them. And we're very, very grateful for what you've done for us this evening. Thank you.